Hey guys, welcome back to the Gentleman's Hour. We missed all your faces. We appreciate you. Of course, I am Joshua Fers, and that is, of course, I just want to say how great you look, Mr. Tom Shoaff.
Oh, well, thank you. I have to be presentable, to the general public. Uh, so I put on my mask, we'll call it.
Is it weird?
And
Is it weird to say I missed your face? I
it's
missed you,
not
Tom
weird
Shoaff.
to say, and it's not weird to hear. I missed you as well, and I love hearing that. And to everybody out there, I know, as the banner says at the top of the screen, we're supposed to have new episodes every Wednesday, but we haven't had any episodes over the last couple of weeks.
Right.
Unfortunately enough, the last episode we were going to do, now my mind is sparking. And I believe it was a live show with Arnold Adams to
Right.
discuss his situation with Alan Belcher.
Yep.
And unfortunately, I found out that my father had passed away that day. So I couldn't make it to the show. And over the last couple of weeks, been dealing with house stuff and,
Just life. Just
all the life funeral stuff. So that's where we've been for the last couple of weeks. Josh has been so kind to give me some time to get myself in order here, and now we're back and we're ready to jam. So welcome to Wednesday, welcome to the Gentleman's Hour, welcome back. We're ready to chat.
I will bring this to people's attention too. We tried to record an episode last week. We literally got like 45 minutes into an episode.
Yeah.
And then I realized my sound was all jacked up, so it wasn't usable. And it's a shame because it was a pretty good conversation, but it was just completely unusable. But we're here now. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. We appreciate the love and support. We've seen, when's your guys' next episode, when you guys coming back. We've seen it. We really appreciate it. It makes me feel good that, I'm happy you guys missed us and want some more Tom Shoaff and Josh and the Gentleman's Hour, and we really do appreciate it. I guess really there's the BKFC card that just happened, the one in Norfolk. Some weird stuff on that, and we're not going to digest the entire card because that's been done already a dozen times. But some weird stuff did happen on the card. I mean, the one guy slipped and fell in the back, and the whole fight just had to be canceled like last second. And there was Brian Maxwell's fight, who is of course a friend of the show, and his fight just wasn't aired at all. I'm a little upset about that. I don't, just a complete dark match, just nothing. Can't find footage anywhere of the fight. I want to see the fight, but Brian Maxwell got the dub in his home state, of course, in Virginia, and really proud of him. Really proud of him for that.
Congratulations, Mr. Red Rims.
Mr. Red Rims, yeah, of course. And like I said, it's he's come a long way, worked really hard. So I really am truly, Brian, if you're watching, I really am proud of you, man. You know that. So obviously, like the weird elephant in the room with the show was the main event. I mean, that's really, the whole fight card was pretty good, but a lot of people are talking about the whole thing with the fight with Daniel Alvarez and Reggie Barnett Jr. And Daniel comes in 2 weeks notice, something like that. The other guy had some visa issues, couldn't come in. Daniel comes in, of course, overweight. I don't mean that in the negative context, because he was fighting at 155, like for that canceled card.
The one in North Carolina.
You're right. He was on that card.
Or no. Delray Beach.
The Delray Beach one, yeah. Was going to fight at 155, and then within a week cut down to the 135. So like I don't say that in the sense of he couldn't do it, but I mean it's a hard task for anybody to do that. He was prepping for one weight, literally jumping 20 pounds down to fight the champ at 135. did the best he could. I think he got down to off the top of my brain 139, 140, something like that. Which of course didn't make it a championship belt. Which, by the way, several times, and I have to pick on Cyrus. He said like multiple times, like a title fight, it's title fight. You're defending your title. There was no the title defended because he didn't make weight. So,
right.
Just want to throw that out there.
In honor, I guess. It's kind of like that one fight that he had that was in his weight class, but it wasn't a title defense.
Oh, when it was still the interim belt, but the interim belt wasn't defended. Yeah. That was the fight against
another little Hispanic guy, Herrero.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and the interim title wasn't on the line, which weird. I don't know. I thought and maybe I'm wrong. I didn't know that you could choose to not defend the belt if you were fighting in your weight class.
I don't think you can. I don't think that's an option. But I mean, what do I know? I'm not a promoter.
Right? I mean, like, of course. Now, mind you, my background is the pro wrestling, right? And the champ, like, I'm not defending my belt tonight, right? All right, so that's how I think about this. And then like I see the title's not on the line. I'm like, what is this? Like, you can do that? And
this isn't the first time they've pulled a WWE move. I mean, watch all of any of the interviews they do with fighters, like during the show, are all very WWE-esque. Britain Hart is the definition of a WWE diva. Everything that comes out of her mouth is written down and rehearsed days beforehand. And that's completely my opinion. I don't have any facts behind that, but that's just the impression that I get from her. I feel like their shows have become more and more dramatized because the talent's not necessarily there to put on the show, so you have to have the drama behind it. As unfortunate as that is to say, I think that that's genuinely the case. But enough of that. We can get back to Reggie getting dropped on his head, unfortunately. The guy that he fought was a very experienced guy, undefeated across multiple sports, and comes from a heavy MMA background. So when he got underneath that shoulder and being 20 pounds heavier than Reggie, it was very easy for him to elevate and rotate, which is natural tendency for a wrestler or an MMA fighter, and drop Reggie. I don't have any dispute that Reggie landed on his head. I don't dispute that in any way, shape, or form. I think the dramatics that Reggie had after he landed on his head were what was the thing that most people lost respect for. And then I want to say he did an interview after the fight, like a Facebook or Instagram interview, something like that. And he said that, yeah, he was lying and he was fibbing and he was pretending and so on. So I didn't watch the interview. I just saw the little headline of him saying he was, fibbing his butt off or lying his butt off or whatever. But it's stuff like that, it's like, from a fighter's perspective, like, our job is to go in there and fight. And you get punched in the face, you get punched in the body, or if you're in an MMA fight, like, you get kicked and slammed and all kinds of shit. Like, your job is to go in there and fight. And if you take a shot and you're looking for a way out, it's like, why are you even there to begin with? You get dropped on your head. Why are you even there?
I will say this, and if you don't mind, let me just pause you just for a second, if you don't mind. I know what interview you're talking about. I know what you're talking about when he was saying I was fibbing and lying my butt off. He was saying that in reference to saying that he was okay to the doctor after he got slammed, not about.
And again, I think that's
right.
I think that's a blatant lie to make him look better after the fact. because he was looking for every fucking way out during that fight. And I can say that because I saw it, and the reason I saw it is because I've done it. I've been that guy who's looking to look more hurt and more damaged than he is to gain sympathy from others. I've done it. I know what it looks like. And the second that happened to Reggie, the first thought that came to his brain was, how do I get out of this? How can I get out of this without taking any more damage and winning? That was what came to his brain. And once he realized he couldn't do it, it couldn't happen, he jumped up like everything was fine and he got back to business, which I commend. Good for you. I'm glad you defeated that mental lapse of yours. It doesn't change the fact that you had it. From a fighter's perspective, it shows me nothing but cowardice. So I love Reggie as a human being, but as a fighter, bro, you lost a lot of respect from me. Don't lose any sleep over it.
Well, and of course I don't have some of that same perspective that you do, because like you said, you've been in some tough fucking situations, like in a fight. So like I don't have that perspective. Only perspective I have is just what my eyes saw, right?
Mm-hmm.
From a visual perspective, I will concur, it looked weird. Now, with that said, I'm not necessarily questioning anything, but it definitely looks weird just from what your eyes are telling you. Obviously he got dropped, and you can definitely tell he definitely hit his head.
Yeah, I won't dispute that. I won't dispute the facts of the case. He got elevated, he got dropped on his head in a boxing match. Things that shouldn't happen, shouldn't be allowed, so on and so forth.
Do you think it's possible? Well, let me just play devil's advocate. Let me just play devil's advocate.
Okay.
Is it possible? So if you want to, rewind a little bit and take everything at face value. How likely, how possible is that, from what he's saying, gets dropped on his head hard enough to where his version, that sounds like, what he's saying is that when he doesn't remember too much,
the truth,
right? Okay, so what he's saying is, what Reggie says is, I don't remember too much after that drop. He's like, I really don't remember a whole hell of a lot of that fight. He was like, I was kind of on autopilot. So taking that at face value, is that something that's feasible? Is it really? So to you, are you saying that that's completely just, I don't buy it kind of thing?
In my professional opinion, I do not buy that. I don't buy it one bit. And I will give numerous examples. All right. So let me get this straight. You can get picked up and you can get dropped on your head once and not remember a fight. But you can fight guys like Reggie Barnett. Reggie can fight Johnny Bedford and get leveled punch after punch after punch, round after round after round. And he can say, oh, I remember every bit of that fight. I remember every detail, every aspect of it. That part doesn't make sense to me. Okay. Second thing that doesn't make sense. MMA fighters get kicked in the fucking head, walk through it, get dropped on their fucking head, still grapple, still compete. Now, is Reggie an MMA fighter? No. Was that an MMA fight? No. But the fact of the matter is that it's physically possible to be picked up and dropped on your head and be fairly okay and still work your way through the situation and scenario. On top of all of that, all right, I'm going to do the one thing that we probably should never do when it comes to fighters, but I'm going to compare fighters, okay? Now, if Reggie Barnett can get elevated 5 feet off the ground, dropped on his head, and throw a fit, say he doesn't remember shit, and still be considered a fighter, then Clarissa Sagala, who snaps her ankle after taking a shot, puts the shit back into place, and then tries to get up and keep fighting, then she's got to be like like something far beyond just a fighter. because those two people aren't in the same range. They're not in the same realm of reality. How do you snap a limb and get up to keep fighting and not care and be equated as the same person who gets dropped on their head and wants to quit? I don't see how you can consider those two things the same. And comparing those two people, like, those are two very different reactions from two people who are called fighters. In my opinion, I don't see how you can call yourself a champion, the best of the best, the greatest pound for pound bare knuckle fighter, this, that, and the other, yada, yada, yada. Say all of these things. And then once you're actually in a fight and things get hairy, you look to quit.
Well, let me pick your brain.
That doesn't side with me.
Yeah, well, let me pick your brain on this then. Let's dig a little further. So, like you said, the fights with Bedford, like, Reggie's been in some wars, so it's not like, he hasn't been in some wars with people.
Mm-hmm.
So, based on what you're saying, right, from your perspective, then, what do you think it is? Do you think it's a matter of Reggie's getting into this fight with this guy who was taking this fight on, whatever, 10 days notice, 2 weeks notice, whatever, and maybe there's a little bit of Reggie's thinking he's going to roll right over this guy, and then he gets in there with him, and like Alvarez was pretty fucking. He had some good footwork, right? At least from my perspective. I don't. Maybe he had shit footwork.
He moved around well,
he was moving around. He was very quick. He was very fucking fast, right?
Yeah, it's a lot bigger than Reggie. It won't dispute that. Yeah.
So maybe he's actually in there with him, and he's fucking hitting him, and he's feeling that extra 20 pounds of weight, and he's going, "Oh fuck, this guy is fast, and he can throw some fucking hands. Oh shit." It's my hometown. I have to win tonight. Like, the pressure is on me. This is my building, and literally 20 minutes from my house. This guy is coming in last minute
with like 10 or 11 fights, and yeah, there was a lot on Reggie's shoulders that
I have to put this guy away. So okay, I guess do you think it was more, again, and I'm coming at this from your perspective, right? So, like, do you think it's more of he's in this fight and he's like, holy shit, and then like the slam happens, and do you think that he's thinking, man, what if I can just let me just use this to chill out for a second? Or
human tendency is always going to be passive least resistance.
Well, like, or do you think, man, I got fucking dropped on my head, holy fuck. Like, what if it's none of the other stuff, and it's just, man, I fucking took a hard bump on my head. I'm fucked up.
Well, again, it comes down to the reaction. Like, and that's my stance on it. All right, it's the reaction. If you have a genuine reaction to where you get dropped on your head, and you're like, oh fuck, like, I got dropped on my head. Hold on, give me a second. Let me get my bearings, and it's genuine. The world can see that. It's a genuine reaction. All right? But when you get dropped on your head and you start going, and you start fucking putting on this show, like, the whole world knows you're just being a fucking clown. You're looking for sympathy, and you're looking for a way out. And that's the part as a fighter that bothers me. If you get dropped on your head and you need a minute, cool. Nobody's disputing that because it was against the rules. You got dropped on your head, take a minute. But the second you start over dramatizing and World Wrestling Federation fucking excitement the event, that's when people get pissed off. That's when fighters know you're faking. And that's when genuine fight fans lose respect for you because you're clearly looking for a way out. You are clearly faking the results of the situation at hand so that you can win because there's too much pressure. There's fear in your heart and you're letting it win. That's my argument. That's where I'm getting frustrated at Reggie for, or what I'm getting frustrated at Reggie for. You get dropped on your head and you take an illegal blow and you need a few minutes. I get it, dude. I've been hitting the balls. I've been hitting the back of the head. like I've had shitty instances in fights happen where it's like, all right, give me a second, because we're not on the street. There are rules here, and this isn't a fucking fight for survival. Okay, I can take that leeway and have that few minutes. But again, the second you start being a drama queen about the fucking situation and just essentially begging the ref to call the fucking fight because you're scared, find a new fucking sport, homie. That's my opinion. That's my stance on the situation. So to get back to what you were saying, Jeff, or Josh, I'm sorry. To get back to what you're saying, if Reggie gets dropped on his head and he needs a legitimate minute and he is honest about it to himself and the rest of the world, nobody's going to be upset at that. Nobody's going to be mad at that. We all see it. We all understand it. We're like, all right, you took one, take one for the team. But the second you try to make the end result 10 times more extreme than the moment or the situation at hand, everybody loses respect for that. You know, it's the boys who cried wolf. It's like, we're tired of this shit. Like, we're just going to let your ass get eaten. Anyway, I've rambled enough.
Okay, so I guess I'm just, so you're, and I just want to make sure I'm clear. So like your main complaint, obviously you take a shot. I think what you have up to 5 minutes. I don't know. I'm just guessing that it's like 5 minutes to recover, right? Okay. So obviously you get dumped on your head. Shouldn't have happened in the first place, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Take a fucking minute. Take 2 minutes. Take 3 minutes. Take 4 minutes to recover yourself.
Right. Yeah.
Your whole thing isn't so much. It's just from the way it looked. It did look dramatic. So like again, I'm not claiming Reggie did anything. It looked dramatic from what my eyes saw. I'm just going by what it looked like. I don't know. It looked dramatic. I'm not saying
there. Yes.
I'm not saying he faked anything. I don't know. I have no fucking clue, right? But I can only go by what my eyes saw. It looked weird. Like maybe, like I said, at face value, he needed a fucking minute, which, like you said, nobody would fucking argue about. We get it. You got dumped on your head. I don't know. I guess let's just. It is weird. Let's move forward into that fight to the other weird part, which a lot of people have talked about, was the finish, which was Reggie pointing out that the guy's fucking finger was like bent backwards.
Yeah.
Is that now? Again, coming from my perspective, I cannot recall ever watching a, bare knuckle MMA boxing. I've never seen a fight where the opponent pointed out, hey, your shit's fucked up. I don't think you can fight. Like, your shit's fucked up. Like, in the middle of the fight. I've never seen it. I obviously. Is that something that you've ever seen? Is it something you've heard of?
I have. And so I don't like that it's done. Okay, so I'll start with this. I've seen numerous fighters do that very similar thing, not just in bare knuckle, but in kickboxing, in boxing, and in MMA. But it's usually in the midst of action. And what I mean by that is one guy is just beating the fuck out of another guy, and he just looks over at the ref like, yo, what are you doing? Like, are you going to stop this? Like those things
Sure.
happen.
Yeah, right.
Or
right.
Guys
right.
are leaking real bad and, take a clean combination, and then they'll look over and point at him and be like, yo, bro, like, it's pretty bad. You might want to stop.
Like, how much more do I have to do to fucking...
Exactly. So
yeah.
I have seen those instances. I absolutely
I have seen that. Yeah.
But never have I've never seen it before the round starts. And maybe it's because like we start rounds so much differently than everybody else. The fighters come to the middle and they engage, so you get a brief second to kind of get a look at your opponent and what's going on. But no, I've never seen it play out the way that situation played out, and I've never seen it happen over You know, like I've seen guys break their hands in fights. You see it happen all the time. They'll walk back to their corner and they'll be like, "Oh man, I broke my hand." Or the doctor will be like, "Is your hand okay?" And they'll be like, "No, I broke it." And they'll be like, "What do you want to do?" It's like, "Oh, I'm okay. I'll keep going." I've never seen that happen from a hand before. And I've never seen and again, unless the hand is just like shattered, and completely deformed. I've never seen that happen. I've seen it on jaws. I've seen it on noses, eyes, cuts. But I've never seen it on a hand. So, and because we only have two weapons in this sport, and that's your hands. Now at 50% arsenal, is that the best thing to let him continue to go fight? Probably not. Um, but again, to bring the conversation full circle, I have seen those situations happen, but not the way that it played out like that. Not in between rounds with one fighter to another fighter over a hand. No, I've never seen that happen before. That was another.
And there's multiple layers to this, right? So there's Reggie pointing out the injury. There's the referee. There's the doctor stopping the fight over the injury. Have you ever seen a fight gets, like you said, like usually a broken hand is something like it happens. It's common. Like, oh shit, I fucked up my hand. Like, isn't that something that's usually up to the discretion of, the corner or the fighter? Like, hey, can you continue? Like, do you feel like you can continue? Yeah, I'm good. All right, fuck it, go ahead. Right?
And I think so, but we again may be thinking of glove sport. Because you think about like a kickboxing match. Well, I've got gloves on, so you can't really you don't really know if it's broken. And I've got other weapons. MMA, I've got gloves on. You'll see a little bit of swelling, but you can't really tell if things are broken. And then they let the fight go on. I genuinely don't know, man. I think maybe because it's bare knuckle, and maybe because you only have your hands, and now you've reduced essentially your offense as well as your defense. Um, Down to 50%, maybe again, I think it's the logical decision. I think that's the smart decision. If my fucking jab hand is broken, I can't use my jab hand. You know what I mean? Like, so that now I'm forced to do open palm strikes, which aren't allowed, or my hand has to be open in some way, shape, or form to catch, and then I got to worry about eye pokes, things like that. So like I think that it was right decision to call the fight, with that guy's hand looking the way that it was. But I think it's the discretion. I don't think it's the ref's responsibility. I think it's the fighter or the corner's responsibility. Like you were, like in between rounds, the doctor comes in and looks at the fighter's hand. Okay, I think you can call that fight. Or in between rounds, the fighter says, "My hand's fucked up. This hurts." Then the doctor comes in, looks at it, says, "No, I don't think you can fight anymore." Calls the fight. But for the fighter to point it out to the ref to stop the fight, 2 seconds into the fourth round or fifth round or whatever it was, and then call the doctor in, and then have the doctor call the fight with the fighter that had the hand never made a complaint, doesn't make sense. Like, that bothers me.
Just a weird it's a weird scenario. It's just
it is. And I know cuts are different in a sense because you can't see the cuts. So like it makes sense that a fighter wouldn't complain about something he couldn't see. But he could see his hand, he could feel his hand. But again, it didn't seem like he cared. So I don't know. Part of me wants to say that's fighter discretion, but also part of me understands the dangers of letting breaks and fractures continue to get hit and damaged. It compounds the injury. So that's a tricky situation, man. I don't know. Part of me wants to side with the fighter being a fighter, but also being a fighter, I know it's the job of the referee and the doctors to maintain longevity and safety for the fighters. And it's not safe to let a guy go out there and get in a fist fight with one hand.
Now again too, I have to probe this a little bit too. Does it make it any different that you're coming into this fight whatever your 2 weeks. Well, I keep saying 2 weeks notice, but I mean, like, he was already training for a fight. So I it's not like he was just sitting on the couch, 2-week call,
Right.
hey, come fight. He was
Right.
trained. So it wasn't like he wasn't like prepared for a fight. A very different fighter, sure. But let's just say, okay, so it's this main event fight. You're fighting against the champion. It's not for the belt because you couldn't weigh in, but whatever. It's still a very, very, very big fight. Possibly, I don't know, maybe the biggest fight in his career. I don't know. I don't know his full.
At that point, yeah, because he was like 4-0 in MMA, 5-0 in boxing, 3-0 in kickboxing. I want to say,
and then one. I think he said one bare knuckle fight. All right, so
1-0 in
doesn't that kind of, to me, I feel like, again, and this is where I would have to lean towards totally understand that you don't want to, again, compound the injury, make it worse, make it so your fucking recovery time is that much longer because too tough for your own good kind of thing. But I feel like there also has to be, there's a line to that. If the juice is worth the squeeze, in this instance, is a huge fight against a champ. It's not like you're an opening fight on some fucking regional card that no one's going to see anyway. You have a lot of eyeballs on you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Shouldn't you at least give the fighter that chance? Like, hey man, your finger's fucked up. Can you continue? And let him make that call. That's how I feel about that call. Like in that scenario, I'm not saying, again, if it was like a small fight, regional card, nobody saw anyway. Yeah, okay. Don't fucking risk. Don't fuck up your hand any further for some fight that no one's going to know about 10 years down the road.
Yeah, but I think that juxtaposition is the exact problem, and I'll explain. So you're absolutely correct. You're not going to take the third fight on the prelims, in that exact scenario, and give that guy an option because nobody's going to remember that fight in 6 months, 3 months, 3 years, whatever. That being said, any real fighter, any fighter in their right mind that was in, what was that guy's name again?
Daniel Alvarez.
It was in Daniel Alvarez's situation. If a doctor says, can you keep going? A guy fighting a champion in a different weight class, potentially the biggest fight of his life in the main event, and the opportunity to take the champ out in his hometown, any fighter in their right mind is going to be like, yeah, I'm going to keep going.
Right.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. Because you want that opportunity. So then that's where the doctors come in. That's why it's the doctors and the referees' job to ensure fighter safety, because most of us are too tough for our own good.
Right.
I'll use myself as a great example. In my last fight, I took that right hook to the eye and almost lost my fucking eyeball. I got up and the ref was like, you want to keep going? I was like, yup. And we kept going for another, minute or whatever it was. And then I was still upset that the fight was over, when the fight got called at the beginning of the next round. I went back and got my shit stitched up and was still upset, even though the doctors were freaking out while they were in the back stitching me up. It wasn't until a couple of days later when I was home and actually looking at how deep it, like, he tore, when you go like this and you pull your eye down and you can see your tear duct?
Yep.
And it's inside your eyelid?
Yep.
He tore my tear duct. Like, it was from my tear duct all the way down.
Yeah.
And again, like we were talking about, I couldn't see it. I didn't really know. And because my adrenaline was so high and my want for that opportunity was so high, nothing was stopping me but from continuing that fight. But I would have lost my fucking eye if I would have done it. So it's the same situation, like you put Alvarez in that situation, and he's gonna say, yeah, he's good. I want this opportunity. I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna fight. I'm gonna take that shot because of the stakes that are because the stakes are so high. You're not gonna do that on a prelim fight. You're going to take your paycheck, you're going to go home, and you're going to ice it out. And I think because of the situation, because of that juxtaposition, like we were talking about, any fighter in their right mind is going to take that opportunity and risk losing a hand.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I mean, and maybe too. I guess I would probably. I don't know. But I would probably even say your position was probably even a little more grave. Like that's your eyeball versus a finger. But I mean, the situation the
the
idea is still the same. Yeah, the idea is still the same. I hear you.
Because of this, like again, it was main event. I was in the other person's hometown,
Right.
or hometown fighting
Right.
for his belt.
Right.
Like all of the cards were essentially stacked the same.
Right.
The only difference is I didn't have to cut a tremendous amount of weight. Things like that.
Right.
And my response is still the same. Do you want to fight? Yes.
Right.
Absolutely, I want to fight. But it wasn't smart,
Right.
But as the
Right.
fighter, as the person in there doing the job, that's what I wanted to do. And I guarantee you that, Daniel Alvarez, I think that was right? Daniel Alvarez,
Right.
that he would have made the same decision. He would have had the exact same mentality. No, I'm going to beat this motherfucker's ass. Let's go.
Right.
So, yeah, that's how I feel about that. So to get back to your original point, like, do you give the fighter that decision or that question? Do you present that question to him? Like, are you okay? Can you keep going? I don't think you should. I think maybe if he gets dropped, and it's in between, it's you're still in the round. Like, are you okay? Walk over here, show me your hand. Things like what the referee does. Absolutely, yeah. Make sure he's cognizant in that sense, but not in between rounds when he's got a broken hand. He knows he's down. And he's got to go out there and fight some more. Like, of course, he's going to choose. As given the opportunity and circumstance, he's going to choose to go out there and continue to fight. He wants that win. That's my opinion on it. I think that horse is good and dead now.
You think you have any? Do you have any opinion on Andrew Glenn, the referee?
I think I don't know, man.
Because I'll be honest, especially if you go on social media, a lot of the fan base, again, the optics of a lot of it just happens to appear. Now, coincidence or is there a pattern? A lot of Andrew Glenn's fights have weird fucking shit happen in them.
Yeah, I think that. So I will start this by saying that being a referee is a thankless job.
I can appreciate that. Sure.
Very rarely are referees given the benefit of the doubt or told, "Hey, good job," things like that. You're like, usually referees are always going to be the bad guy. They either stop the fight too early, stop the fight too late, make the wrong decision.
Because they're an easy scapegoat. It's an easy scapegoat.
Exactly. So it's a thankless job.
Yeah, I get
that. Said, yes, what you just touched on, a lot of Andrew Glenn's fights end in peculiar ways. He seems to have a tendency to lean towards a certain fighter and favor that fighter's ideas or decisions or remarks or whatever. You can call that bias. You can call it favoritism. You can call it fucking whatever. I'm not gonna call it anything specific. That's just something that I've noticed. Is watching his fights, he tends to lean towards one corner versus the other. And I would also say that, to go back to how we first started this whole thing, we were going to talk to AJ about the Belcher fight. And
which was also Andrew Glenn.
If memory serves correctly, Andrew Glenn waved off the champ at 7. As he was standing up, waved him off at 7. Didn't even make the mandatory 8 count as a referee. Waved the fucking reigning defending champ off at 7. You don't fucking do that, dude. You don't do that.
Which
nobody in his right mind does that. You let him stand up and stumble into a rope before you wave him off. As the champion, you give them that respect. So anyway, I'm digressing.
No, you know what? And I
the point is Andrew Glenn, and yes, I
well,
feel
hold
like
on. While you touch on that too, if I may just insert a piece too, because a lot of people say, well, it's not 10 second, it's a 10 count. Okay, fine. I hear you, and I can appreciate that there is a difference. It's not necessarily 10 seconds, it's a 10 count. However, if your 10 count is blatantly different from fighter to fighter, from knockdown to knockdown, that is a fucking problem.
In the same fight.
In the same fight.
And again, this goes back to what I was saying earlier about how he tends to lean from corner to corner, depending on situation and scenario. Because yeah, we could go to the counts themselves. I think there's a couple of videos floating around the internet of Belcher's counts, and they're 13 seconds, 14 seconds, 15 seconds. From the time he goes down to the time he beats the count at 8, or 9 or whatever it is, it's a legitimate 15 seconds, 10, 12, or over 10 seconds. Moral of the story.
Right.
And then you go to AJ's drops, and from the time he goes down to the time it's called, it's less than 10 seconds.
We all counted it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you're not even getting, you don't even have to count it. Look at the fucking round clock. The clock's right there on the screen. It tells you how much time passes. But it's situations like that. It's like you're saying, you have to be consistent throughout the fight with both fighters. And when this goes back to the Reggie situation. When your decisions are obviously questionable, don't be fucking surprised when people question them. Right. So it's like, look, you're making decisions to obviously have longer counts for one person, making decisions to do things like wave the champ off. It's like, these are questionable decisions. And yeah, we're going to question those decisions. So again, being a referee is a thankless job, and I feel sorry for most referees. That being said, most referees don't find themselves in this situation because most referees don't make the decisions that Andrew Glenn makes.
Right. And like you said, sometimes shit happens. Even great referees, like I'm sure Big Dan has fucked up a couple times. Herb Dean has fucked up a couple times.
Yeah.
With that said, those are like top tier, like grade A referees, right? So like everybody's gonna mess up. Nobody's disputing you have to be perfect to be a good referee.
Nobody's saying that. Just let your biases be a little less clear.
It's just really weird. Or like in previous fights where we've seen, getting hit on a knockdown, we've seen a DQ for one guy, same exact situation, not a DQ for another guy. It's just weird. So if you're gonna,
hold on, yes, that is absolutely matter of fact. I can't remember what card it was, but it was Andrew Glenn's first fight. Guy gets dropped, gets hit while he's down, guy gets DQ'd, and then his second fight that he ref, same situation happened, didn't DQ the guy, didn't even take a point from the guy. And then to go back to Reggie get dropped on his head, first instance, 2 points. Like, that was weird. No warning, no soft warning.
You know what? And I actually forgot about that.
Right out the gate, 2 points. It's like,
I forgot about that. He did deduct 2 points.
Yeah, right out the gate. Again, so again, it's just like it's like why are your emotions getting involved in this? At least that's what it felt like. Felt like he was upset that he dropped Reggie. So he just jumped to the biggest extreme that he could outside of disqualifying him because he knew he could. So they had to have a fight.
I'm glad you brought that up because at the time I thought how strange it was because typically now if it's very egregious you see referees not even do the warning and just take the 1 point, right? Even if it's like really egregious. But right out the gate, no warning, 2 points. I don't know that I've ever seen.
I've never seen 2 points get taken before. Like, I've seen 2 points.
I don't think I've ever seen 2 points be taken before.
Low blows and have 2 instances, in one round where a point gets taken. But I've never seen somebody just be like 2 points. Never in my life have I seen that. Especially in the first round. It's like, yo, you just gave this guy 2 knockdowns. What the fuck? Anyway, yeah. So
I'm glad you brought that up. That is another weird point. That's weird, man.
I don't get it. Again, I don't understand it, and I won't pretend to.
Because you don't want to think that a like referees and judges should be the most non-partial people involved in any fight, right? Mm-hmm. Should be completely down the middle. But again, I'm not necessarily accusing Andrew Glenn of anything once again. However, the optics of what my eyeballs saw was extremely fucking questionable, and it's weird. And I feel like there needs to be something like that. I feel like should be addressed. Like, hey, man, what was your thought and maybe I would love to even, I don't know if he would ever do it. I'd love to even get him on and be like, hey, man, can you what was your thought process? You took 2 points from this fucking guy right out the gate.
Yeah.
Biggest fight of his fucking life.
Yeah. Make this make sense.
Like, just explain to me.
Start getting a hold of people who make questionable decisions on fight cards and putting them on the show during the week. Just like, make this make sense, homie.
And because like you said, I think it's only fair when you're in that kind of position, right? On one hand, 100%, I can appreciate the thankless job aspect because everybody is going to look at you and, right, like refs, completely thankless job. Like I said, fight gets stopped too early, ref's fault. Fight gets stopped too late, ref's fault. Totally understand. But at the same time, like you're essentially, for lack of a better, you're the judge, jury, executioner in the fight. You're supposed to be non-biased. When you make at least what appears to be weird decisions, now I could be completely unfucking educated on certain rules and certain this and certain that. I'm not above that. Like maybe there's something I don't know. Maybe he told Daniel something in the back, like, "Hey, you fucking take him down." I'm gonna give, like, maybe there was a conversation. I don't know. Maybe there was something
that very well could have happened.
There has to be something, right? There has to be something that at least to the public aspect of it, because right now you appear to be a referee that is questionable. I just feel like there should be some kind of public statement. Maybe you're going through, but like, I don't have to say shit. I did what I did.
Yeah, and that's feasible. I don't feel like so what somebody told me a phrase many moons ago that I hold dear to my heart. They said one of the beautiful things about being an adult is that you don't have to explain yourself to anybody. And I truly appreciate that. And I feel like as an adult, Andrew Glenn doesn't have to explain his decisions, professional or otherwise, to other people. I will caveat that by saying when people's livelihoods and potential lives depend on the decisions that you make, perhaps there is a time to have to explain yourself. And when you make a habit of making questionable decisions that impact people's lives and livelihoods, maybe it's time to start having to explain yourself.
I kind of feel like the moment you're in a very, very, very public environment, I totally get the whole not explaining yourself like on a personal level. 100% I agree with that. But when it comes to like that kind of environment, I feel like that goes out of the window. Like, personally, he doesn't have to explain to me why he bought this house versus that house. He didn't have to explain shit.
Exactly. Right? But like I said, when it comes to other people's lives and livelihood,
100%.
Yeah, there needs to be a general consensus as to why you made that decision, and it needs to make sense for everybody's benefit. Because otherwise, you're just fucking people over. Like that's the long and short of it. And we can really take this dark, if we want to, and say, like, are you on someone's payroll? Is someone in your ear telling you to make these decisions for the benefit of person or company or something along those lines? Because the more questionable decisions you make, the more intrepid the conspiracy theories are going to become, especially with the less explanation you put out there. So, I don't know. I just feel like it's treacherous waters for anybody to really be in, but especially as a referee in this situation, it's like you're gonna wind up getting into the point like Steve Mazzagatti and Mario Yamasaki were in, where fighters were like, no,
I was just thinking about them.
I don't want him, reffing my fight. No, because we have that right. I don't. A lot of people might not know that. A lot of regular fight fans or whatnot might not know that. But yeah, so every they usually have 2 or 3 referees per show, and those referees get designated to fights, and so that they can have time off, so on and so forth.
Right.
And then those referees go to the fighters and they say, "Hi, I'm so and so, and I'll be repping your fight tonight. Here's some of my rules and regulations and things I want you to think about, so on and so forth."
Right.
And the fighter has the option to be like, with all due respect, go fuck yourself. I don't want you to ref my fight. And then, there has to be reorganization done on the commissions and so on and so forth. All of that said, we have that option. So if these questionable decisions continue to be made, you may start running into fighters who don't want Glenn cornering, Andrew Glenn cornering or coach reffing, those fights. That could be strenuous on anybody. Anywho,
I don't know, man. It's it is weird, and like people have been a lot of fans have seen it. A lot of people in the fight game have seen it, and a lot of people feel the same way. And yeah, like normally, like you said, in a personal aspect, I would normally say, yeah, fuck off. I'm the ref. I did what I did. But when
you don't really have that. I know I'm kind of contradicting myself from my statement earlier about being an adult and not having to explain yourself to anybody, but I think you and I both kind of touched on this a little bit. You don't really have that option when you're the referee. Like let's say like we'll go to a basketball game and the refs are clearly favoring one team over the other team. It's like people throw a fit about that. And those refs, they depending on the circumstances of what had happened and what they were doing, some of them wind up going to fucking jail for it. So regardless of sport, when you're the referee, you're supposed to be non-biased and you're supposed to have the same rules, regulations, and guidelines for both sides. And I don't think that's happening. Anyway. Anywho,
Mr. Andy Glenn, we need you on the show, pal.
Bro, come chat it with us. Tell me what's going on. I need to.
Hey, and you know what? Like, I'm willing to, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt if he can. Like I said, come on, educate me, because maybe I have no clue what the hell I'm talking about, which is very possible, right?
Yeah,
it's extremely possible. Come over, educate me. Say, Josh, listen, you weren't there. I was in the fucking back. I told this dude, hey man, you guys do anything fucking, I'm not fucking around tonight. You guys do a takedown, I'm not fucking around. Eye pokes, I'm not fucking around tonight. This is straight down the fucking middle. I don't know. I'm sure stuff like that happens, right? Like conversations like that have to happen sometime, right?
Yeah, it has happened. Again, from personal experience, I've had refs come in the back and say things like that. Like we're not. We're in a new state. We got to be by the book today, guys. Don't be disrespectful. Don't have bad sportsmanship. Like we really got to set a good impression tonight. So listen to the refs. so on and so forth. And then the refs come in and they're like, look, we're doing it by the book. You guys fuck off. You guys do anything wrong, we're going to disqualify you. You guys start breaking rules, we're going to take points. Like, those conversations do happen. So maybe it did happen, and maybe they did have a little, look, I know you've been training for an MMA fight, so those tendencies come out. I'm going to dock you for it, be prepared. That could have happened. Genuinely don't know. So Andrew Glenn, come on, talk to me.
And you know what? And that's another good point on Virginia being a new state, Virginia being a very, for as long as I've ever been involved with different stuff with DPOR, which is the regulatory, that's the commission, DPOR, Department of Professional Occupation Regulation, whatever. They're the people that commission like MMA, boxing, pro wrestling, stuff like that. They're the ones that approve all that shit. Maybe because it was the first bare knuckle, that's something also I didn't really think about. Maybe there was extra pressure on, the commission to the referees, like, hey, we don't want to look like a bunch of jackasses here proving bare knuckle. Don't make us look, we're really going out on a limb. Yeah, because of course, because bare knuckle has the whole, like, it just sounds.
Yeah, Delray Beach got canceled the week before that because a bunch of people showed up to the fucking governor's office, So, like, yeah, I could understand them being, if we want to give them that benefit of the doubt and give that.
I'm just saying it's definitely plausible. I'm not saying that's what happened, but that's all. Right. But it's another aspect. I think if we're going to be fair, going to be fair and look at both sides.
Yeah, we can be fair.
I'm just, if we could be fair and look at both sides, that could have very well happened. I don't know. Maybe there was pressure on Andy Glenn, but I mean, that still doesn't change. I don't want to give him too much credit.
Yeah, it still doesn't change.
That doesn't change. You're right. That doesn't change his pattern, his history. That doesn't change that.
Right. Well, anything else on Norfolk you want to talk about?
I don't know, man. Like I said, it's just it's a shame. And this, we've talked about, I don't know how many times we've touched on this, is how big of a shame it is for something like that to overshadow the entire card, because one fight was very, like, here we are, we're talking about really this one fight because that's the sticking point. That's the talking point that everybody, there's, Britain Hart beat Jenny Savage. She very, like, boxing clinic. She didn't do anything crazy, flashy, kept her at the end of the jab. Was not an exciting fight by any stretch of the imagination. She did what she had to do, just very basic, stick to the end of the jab. Jenny could never find her way in, and that's it. Like, that was the fight. We could be talking about that, but this is the talking point. All this weird shit with the slam, with the weird call, with the broken finger, with the 2-point deduction.
That's where we're at. You know what I think it is? And I think I had said this previously when I was talking about the WWE stuff. About the drama having to make up for the lack of talent. I think that is the grand overview of that card, unfortunately. And that's why we're talking about what we're talking about, because there was the injury for the feature fight, and then there was a lackluster at best co-main event, and then the main event was just weird. But that's what we're going to remember from it. And it's because the drama and the weirdness was more exciting than the fights themselves. And that's the real sad part, honestly and truly. That's the part that everybody should be really upset about or disheartened from, because that's the reality of the situation, is that they had an opportunity to go out there in a new state and put on a stellar fight card. But instead, they put on a mediocre fight card that is now overcast by lackluster performances and strangeness. That's sad. That's unfortunate, man. Because, we talked about this. Brian Maxwell made history by being the first bare knuckle victory in the state of Virginia.
Yeah, that's facts.
Reggie, Britain Hart made history with her being the first female fighter to have 10 fights under the BKFC banner. And Reggie,
I guess technically too, because Britain and Savage, because that was the only female fight on the card, right? So I mean, like the first female fight,
first female
bare knuckle in Virginia, the first female,
right.
Like there was a lot of firsts,
Yeah, and then Reggie, being the first fighter to have 11 fights, I think it was, and being,
so. Yeah.
Both being two champions from Virginia, like they had an opportunity to really make this special, make the card special, and then have people have the memories of how special it was because of the history being made that night. That could overcast the fight. Yeah, the fights were mediocre, but there was so much history made that night. Like that's what we really got to keep in mind. But instead, we're focused on the shenanigans that happened that night because that was the most worthwhile talking point, moving forward. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think we should revert the conversation to the history made that night. There was a lot of history made that night, and I think that's probably what we should take away from it. Outside of all the weirdness and the drama and the chaos, we had the first women's bare knuckle fight in history on Virginia soil.
Yep.
Brian Maxwell won the first fight on Virginia soil in history, and both the champions from Virginia became the first fighter to have 10 fights as a female and 11 fights as a male. And in a sense, they both defended their titles that night, so let's give them that. I think that's.
I mean, yeah, and those are facts. I mean, yeah, those are facts. And in between the weirdness, I do want to say this because I don't want it to make it seem like we're not crapping on Reggie or anything. I do want to, like, in between the weirdness, Reggie was doing what he had to do. He got a knockdown on Alvarez, right? So I mean, like, it's not like it's just. It's
if
just,
he really was running on autopilot, he looked good.
Yeah, right. Like Reggie looked good. I don't want to take that away from him. Like Reggie looked damn good. Reggie, I think Reggie always looks good, right? He's always been one of the more consistent fighters, I think, on the entire roster. Like he always looks good to me. Like he always looks well prepared. Takes his training very seriously, his diet very seriously, just everything super fucking seriously. So I don't want to take that away from him, but you also cannot overlook the weirdness in the room. And I think Tom kind of feels the same way. I'm not going to be one of those people. We're not that podcast that's going to talk about sunshine and rainbows and be like, oh yeah, BKFC 39, it's the best card we've ever fucking seen in our lives. It was great. It was wonderful. I'm not doing that, right? Because it's just, you have to address the weirdness. You have to address the obvious, and that's what we're doing. So it's not necessarily that we're shitting on anything. It's just, again, these are the optics. This is what we saw. This is, Tom's opinion as a professional fucking fighter and BKFC, what have you. This is my opinion from a, my fans chair here. This is my perspective of what I'm looking at. This is what it looks like to me.
More credit than that, bro. You're a sports reporter. We talked about this.
Well, yeah, but that's just a fan with a microphone. So, I mean, I don't,
Hey, it's a fan with a microphone that people listen to. And that's very different than somebody who just sits in a chair.
I suppose. But I do want to ask this. So, and maybe we can, and then we'll move forward from the card. The Britain Hart fight, the one thing I do want to address, because a lot of people said this, and even sometimes I watch fights like this and I say it. What Britain did, like I said, was not exciting. She just kept her at the end of the jab. Jenny has fought Britain before. The first fight was a little, I think Britain was a little more aggressive in their first fight.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I love that first fight because Britain, believe it or not, I learned something from Britt that fight. So thank you, Britt, for teaching me this. I never got a chance to utilize it, and now it's not allowed in the rule set So I'll never get a chance to utilize it. But she got inside in that fight a lot. And she pressured Jenny up against the wall. She buried her fucking forehead in Jenny's face, and she just ripped hooks. She beat her up on the inside a lot. But she also did this really cool trick where she would hold her. She would go with an overhook, and then she would feed her other hand through, and she'd hold her wrist. So she had both of her arms trapped, and then she just fucking waylay her face, and I loved it. Oh, I loved it. Or she'd get in the clinch, and she'd hold, like, she'd use her, Britt would use her left arm to hold Jenny's left arm down, and then she'd swing her right arm. So Jenny would be pinned like this, so she couldn't fire back because she'd be shot. So she was forced to cover up and protect, and she couldn't really do it because anyway, she had beautiful work in the clinch.
That's almost like the bare knuckle equivalent of like getting somebody in a fucking crucifix and just
Oh man, it was beautiful. Like I said, it was beautiful watching her do it. Like, it was something that I legitimately was like that. Like, we've talked about this before, and I've talked about Britt many times on this show. I don't like her personality. I don't like her persona that she portrays to the world. But that girl can fight. She can scrap. I'll be the first to tell anybody that. And I've personally taken little tools from her. And in that first fight, man, she was inside in the clinch, just dirty the whole fight. And I think this is where you're going before I cut you off. That was the first fight, and I think that's what a lot of people had expected.
Yeah, well, so like my question is this: so from you're watching the second fight with her being at the end of the jab. A lot of people, a lot of uneducated people. Again, like I said, I'm not well versed in these kind of tactics, but you're watching the fight, you're seeing Jenny just can't get on the inside. If you're coaching her, if you're coaching Jenny Savage from something that appears to be very basic, keep you at the end of my jab, end of my jab, end of my jab. Now, of course, I know easier said than done, right? That took a whole bunch of fucking training. That's not something Britain just rolled over and started doing. That was a tactic. What do you have to do? Because people are just, why didn't Jenny just fucking get around, get on the inside, give her some body shots, make it dirty? What prevents somebody? What is the counter to somebody doing like a very it's basic but effective, like that, keeping you at the end of your jab? Like, what's a good counter to something like that? If you're stuck in that same position that Jenny was in, where like no matter what you do, you're just, every time you start to go in, pop. You know?
Well, I have to start from I would have to take this from a trainer's perspective. And the first thing that I would be able to tell you is that if you haven't trained it, you will not be able to perform it. So regardless of what her corner was telling her to do, or what advice her corner was saying, hey, you need to do this, hey, you need to do this, hey, try this. If she wasn't working that throughout training camp, if that muscle memory isn't built in, she's not going to learn it in between rounds and then learn how to do it in a live scenario and situation and be able to go out and perform it. The likelihood of that happening is going to be fucking slim to none. So the first thing that I would say is, I think they went wrong in training, because anybody who knows the shorter fighters fighting the longer fighter, you're not fighting from the outside as a shorter fighter. Right. Unless kicks and takedowns are involved, you're not fighting from the outside.
Right.
Your job is to move, create angles, and get inside, find your work, and then create more angles and get back outside. It's the in and out game. It's fucking exhausting. It's tiring. It's very difficult to do, but it's something you have to do. So I think that the flaw from Jenny's perspective really came down to training. It looked to me like she was expecting the first fight. She was expecting Britt to come running in with combinations, then
that
to
dog
clash.
Fight kind of.
And she was expecting Britt to engage the clinch, and it never happened. And this goes back to, Mike Tyson saying everybody's got a game plan until they get punched in the mouth. You know, like you could have a game plan of what's going to happen, but if your game plan relies on your opponent to do something that they never fucking do, well, there goes your game plan. And if that's all you've trained throughout the entirety of camp, you don't have a plan B. You don't have a plan C. So I guess the best way that I could answer your question is the first thing you need to do is train all situations and scenarios specific to the fighter. The second thing you need to do is have multiple options on what happens when you get stuck in different situations. So you've got different outs. And then the third thing would be in that fight, once you realize the situation and scenario that you're stuck in, you have to remind your fighter, hey, we've trained this. We've been here before. You know what happens when you get stuck behind the jab. Either we're catching or we're coming underneath, or we're following that jab back in and coming with body, whatever. Like we've gone over options, and now you need to start implementing those options. And then it'll take a round of any fighter. But okay, all right, my game plan's a little bit different. I got to come forward now, so I can't be so much on my back foot, but I have to maintain range. Okay, so I'm keeping that hand up, finding my distance. All right, now we're moving. Now we're a little more comfortable. Okay, now I can follow that back in. And then you get used to that time, that distance, and then, by round 3 and 4, and, 5, things like that, things start to click. But none of that's going to happen if you haven't trained it, if you haven't performed it, like, it'd be like if I just started speaking trigonometry right now and throwing fucking math problems at you, and you never took trig. So you're like, bro, I don't know how to clue how to solve for x squared because, like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about right now. Like that's
the Pythagorean theory.
A squared plus B squared equals C squared.
Is that really what it is?
That's what that is. Yeah.
I hate you, Tom Shoaff. I hate you, Tom Shoaff. So
it's Pythagoras who thought of that.
Pythagoras.
Yeah. Okay. And he learned all of that from the mystery schools in Egypt. So a little bit of hit for you.
I appreciate that. So if you go back and watch Britain's fight with Beck Rawlings, it's almost the same fight. It was quite frankly to the viewer, it's a boring fight, wasn't exciting. She stayed on the outside. Stayed on the outside, jab, 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 and that's how she won the fight.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I would say the only difference between Beck and Ginny is Ginny moved backwards the whole fight, and Beck came forward.
No, you're right. That is true. Ginny just kind of retreated back a lot. Yeah,
out on the ropes and waited for the clinch. Beck was like, "Nah, I'm gonna beat your ass." She came forward the whole fight, and unfortunately ate jabs the whole fight. So, but yeah, it was, again, to get to your point, it was smart. It wasn't like a fan favorite. People aren't going to be like, "Oh, do you remember this fight?" But she won. It adds to a record. It adds to a resume. She continues.
At what point do you think? And this is and we can go whichever way you like with this. I was a huge GSP fan just because I did wrestling, so I can appreciate. Like a lot of people, it's lay and pray and blah blah blah, and I appreciate like the Daniel Cormiers and the GSPs, and like when I watch like good grappling, good ground, like I can really I love it, right? Because to me, it's like it's a fucking chess match, right? And like I can appreciate how hard that shit is, right? If you've never done it, like you have to be able to appreciate how hard that shit is. But anyway. So like GSP, especially towards the end of his career, minus the Bisping fight, that comeback fight was kind of exciting because they actually knocked Bisping down. But prior to that, a lot of his fights were just about taking the guy down, keeping him down. They weren't very exciting. At what point do you think, hey, I'm not worried about fucking impressing people anymore. I'm going to do what I need to do. And in Britain's situation, she's got a belt now. I'm going to do what I need to do. If somebody wants to take this fucking belt, they're going to have to beat me. They're going to do what they need to do to take my title. I don't need to, be the I don't need to do the Mike Perry style and get in your fucking face the whole time and make it like, ooh, exciting. And like, I don't need to do that style anymore. I'll keep you in my jab. I will beat you with what appears to be basic fucking boxing. I'm going to win this fight. You're going to have to come at me and you're going to have to get through that. What, like, is that what you think is kind of, I guess my question is that what you kind of think is maybe happening with Britt? What do you think happens to fighters? There has to be something that maybe kind of clicks in their head at some point. Certain fighters that, hey, I'm not trying to be the most exciting fight in the card. I'm not worried about fight of the night bonus. I'm going to keep my fucking, I guess, call it legacy, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to keep my record. I'm going to keep getting these fucking dubs. I'm going to build my legacy. I'm going to retain my title.
Yeah. Like, I think that there are a couple of things that
I kind of went all over the place with that a little bit, but I hope you understand what I'm asking.
I fully understand what you're saying. And I'm going to have an equally long-winded response. I think there are a couple of things that come into effect in those situations. I think the first thing that probably stands out in my mind is going to be personality and we'll say ability. Okay. Not every fighter has the personality of going out and performing for the crowd. Not every fighter has the personality of going out like Mike Perry and putting on dog fights every fight.
Right.
That's not in his personality. That's not in GSP's personality. Okay. GSP's personality is technical proficiency, accuracy, and getting out as preserved as possible. Right. And that's what you see come out in his performance. Not only that, he has the ability to conserve himself, in the ways that suit his fight style that way. And same with Britt. Britt has a very grandiose personality, but not necessarily the technical ability to go out and finish and dominate and maul. So she plays to, different. She marches to a beat of a different drum, so to speak.
She plays within her ability. She plays
precisely.
Right.
Precisely. Yes. And then you've got guys like Mike Perry who don't have the greatest record, aren't necessarily fighting for the legacy of being a champion, but necessarily fighting for the legacy of being the most exciting fighter known to man. And that's his personality. So that's the fights that you go out and see, but that also matches his technical abilities. And you could go back to the Michael Venom Page fight. Michael Venom Page has a very similar personality. And if you put him in an MMA fight where he's allowed to use all of his tools and all of his abilities, he's fucking ruthless. He's dangerous, and nobody stands a chance, except for Douglas Lima.
Right.
But you take those tools away from him, you take those abilities away from him. Now he's not the same fighter, and his personality tweaks a little bit and everything, and all of that other stuff. So I think that in that situation and scenario, it comes down to personality and ability. I think your personality is going to dictate a lot of how you fight. And I think that a lot of how you fight comes down to your technical abilities. And I think every fighter is just going to naturally play into the realm in which they fit, the guidelines in which they fit. I don't think it's something that comes with career, or longevity of career. And we'll use GSP as a perfect example. Everybody always talks about how earlier in his fights, he was, knocking people out, finishing people, this, that, and the other. And then later in his fights, it was just all decisions. He'd take people down, he'd hold them down, and control them. He's like, well, you have to look at the fights as a whole, and then you also have to look at the GSP's personality, and then look into his technical ability and his attribute that to his personality. His personality is don't take damage, go out there and control, win, do what you have to do to win, preserve your legacy, preserve your career, preserve all that you can preserve. And he had the technical ability to do that. And underneath the rule set, he would win every time. He'd go down, take people down, and beat them up. You know, that was just his personality come to fruition in the form of martial arts.
Yeah.
It's the same with Britain Hart. It's the same with Mike Perry. It's the same with, Leonard Garcia. It's their personalities come out in the way that they fight, and it's exacerbated only by their performance abilities. That's my long-winded response to that. If I shorten it up, I don't think it's a point in that anybody comes to in their career. I think that it's just a personality trait mixed with technical.
I understand what you're saying. Like it's not like a just well thought out decision. Probably it's just what happens based on, like you said, skill, personality. Like it just ends up coming out of you. I guess this is the way.
I think it's just how people fight. Honestly, I just think it's how
I wonder, because I'll be honest with you with and again I'll go back to Britain. I mean, fuck it, man. If that style works for her, I'm sure Dave doesn't like it, but at the end of the day, if you're the champ, you're winning fights.
Yeah. And that's the legacy you want to continue to build is, I'm a smart fighter. I think she said in the post-fight interview, like, they expected me to come out and do this, that, and the other. So I didn't do that. I didn't do any of that, And again, that's a smart fighter, and she's the female champ. And, she's done a couple of different weight classes. She's got a lot more experience than anybody else, It's like she's really diving headfirst into this leadership role of women's bare knuckle, and I commend that. If that's the legacy that you want to continue to push on, then you need to continue to be smart and win fights and things like that. But again, that comes down to her. I feel like it comes down to her personality, and her personality, in the grand scheme of things, there has to be some sort of intelligence in there, where she's like, no, I got to think this through, and I got to be intelligent about this, and I'm thinking 3 or 4 steps ahead. I feel like that comes down to personality, and then technical ability. She's got the technical ability to do that. I could say, man, I want to be an architect and I want to build this house and I'm going to have all this fucking stuff and it's going to be great, but I don't ever go to school for it or study for it. It's probably never going to fucking happen. My technical ability is not there. So,
on the business side of it, do you think it is on the business side of things? I can imagine. Well, I know these conversations have happened. I won't give specifics. I know they've happened. Would be, I'm sure from a ratings point of view, from a fan's point of view, the promoter's point of view, you think some fighters feel obligated or coerced or forced or told to fight a certain style because it's more exciting?
They might be. I've personally never had that happen, but toot my own horn here. Toot. I don't feel like I've ever had a boring fight. So
I agree with that. I agree with that wholeheartedly. You've never had a boring fight.
I feel like that comes down to personality. I say it all the time. Like I'm here to fight. I'm not here to score points or knockdowns or judges scorecards or anything like that.
Well, don't you also see?
But fighters may experience that. It may happen. I don't know. I can't say I've ever had that problem.
You know what? And I think you worded it. Your processing of it, I think, is a lot better than I'd even thought of when it comes to like personality, like you said, in your styles. Because when you watch some people fight, it almost feels like it doesn't look natural. Like when you see some people come out and they try to be like really aggressive, and for whatever reason, it looks forced and it looks like that's not really like, I don't think that's really how you fight, man. It looks like you're trying to be aggressive. You're trying to fight like that, but it's not really, maybe that's not your style. Maybe that's not what you're good at. I can equate this to equate to this was when I was doing the pro wrestling thing. There was a guy, and I don't know. Did you ever watch like pro wrestling growing up, or did you? So,
yeah.
Do you remember there was a guy back in like this is like the 70s and 80s, Ronnie Garvin? I don't know if that name sounds familiar to you at all. Okay, so he was like a pretty big star in like the 70s and 80s, long time ago. I did a show with him, and he would talk to us. He's like, yeah, he said you see a lot of people go out there and try to do 8 million moves because they feel like they have to, whether it's ego or impress somebody else or impress the fans or impress the promoter. He said, and I tell people all the time, it's better to do what you do well versus, quality over quantity, meaning, if you can't do a fucking body slam that great, don't fucking do it. If you have a really good punch and a really good clothesline, and that's all you can fucking do it. Do it as much as you can. The reason why I'm bringing that up is because, like I said, with some of these fighters, I feel like they try to be overly aggressive, but it's not really their style. And like you said, that's not really their personality. Maybe their personality is, I'm going to fucking lay back for a second and counter. Or maybe the personality is, I'm going to keep you at the edge of my fucking jab, stay protected, keep you pretty far back, and just keep, I will outpoint you every fucking round. I'm not worried about knocking you out. I'm just going to win the fight.
Yeah. So my buddy DeRay Davis, wrestled in college, fought for Strikeforce, training partner of mine for a long time. Consider the guy a brother. We are exact opposite in mentality. My goal is I'm going to go out, like, I don't care how much damage I have to take. I'm going to beat your ass.
Right.
That's it. Like, even if I lose,
right,
I want you to leave with scars.
Right.
That's my goal.
Right.
DeRay is the exact opposite. I don't care about the fans. I don't care about the coach. I don't care about the opponent. All I care about is winning. I'm going to find the quickest, easiest, safest, and most direct way of winning. So he'll go out and he'll play a little, hand game, and then he'll take you down. He'll take your back. He'll choke you out. Game over. He's not trying to put a show on for the fans. He's not trying to impress anybody. All he wants is that W.
Yeah.
And I respect the hell out of both mentalities.
Right.
But again, it comes down to personality. He's all about self-preservation for the win, and I'm all about self-destruction for the cause.
Right.
Right. That's everybody's personality is different. Yeah.
It's just something interesting to think about. Like I've always, I kind of deep dive into people's reasoning for stuff,
Yeah, well, I can appreciate that wrestler's mentality of like, don't be a jack of all trades because then you're master of none.
And that's exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly right. Like it's
Bruce Lee. Yeah, Bruce Lee said, "Don't fear the man who's thrown 10,000 different kicks. Fear the man who's thrown
one kick 10,000 times." Yeah,
exactly. And it's that sort of mentality.
Yeah,
hone in on what you're good at and fucking get great at it. And that's what people are remember. But it comes, to bring the conversation full circle, it comes, to personality, understanding and recognizing who you are, what you're capable of, what fits your fight style the best, and then amplifying that to the, 10,000th power.
Long story short to that, I think Britt is, I think that fuck it. If I mean, who am I? But I think that fight style works for her.
It does. And like I said, it's a smart fight style, especially in a sport like bare knuckle when you don't want to take a lot of damage. You don't want to take a lot of shots,
Now, with that said, she always has in her back pocket, she has the ability to get a little dirty if she needs to.
Right.
But
yeah.
she doesn't have to every single fight. You don't have to.
Being in your back pocket is a great thing. 100%. I talk to my fighters all the time when we're in fight camp, and we spend the first chunk of fight camp going over all of the things that we want to happen and how we want the fight to play out. And then we spend the last chunk of fight camp going through those situations, but losing every step of the way. So it's like, okay, you try to go here and it fails. What do you do? Okay, you get stuck in this position. What do you do? Okay, you're getting dominated and losing. What do you do?
Yeah.
And that way you always have those situations in your back pocket. And when things don't go to game plan, you can always revert back to a new series. So yeah, with Britt having the ability to still fight in the pocket, still dig deep and have those dog fights in her back pocket, that helps her performance and her longevity go a long way. If she's able to maintain her long game, which she's doing, and keep the people away. So yeah, it's a great fight style. It's an intelligent fight style. I don't think either one of us are disputing that.
No, not at all.
I think the big problem, to maybe from a business perspective, is the fans enjoying it. That's
well. The great part is
everybody appreciates intelligence as much as not everybody in the fight fan community appreciates intelligence. They typically appreciate brawn.
Well, here's the great part too, though. Great part is she has the strap. She's got the belt. It's not like they have to fucking book her. So it's not like you can't just not book her because she's not the most exciting. Now that she's got the belt, hey, I run with that thing, man. Like,
yeah.
And that's that kind of style. You know what? And again, kind of another tangent here, but like with GSP style, there was, and same thing with Khabib, right? When you watch a Khabib fight, a GSP fight, I can imagine when you're training for a GSP fight or a Khabib fight, there is no surprise. You've seen one Khabib fight, you've almost seen them all. There is no, he does not vary very much. But it almost makes it that much more intimidating because it's like, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do, and you can't fucking stop me. I'm going to tell you, I will give you a year. I will tell you every single fucking move that I'm going to make, and you still can't fucking stop me. Like that's more frightening to me than somebody who is completely random.
My headphones just died. I don't know if you're going to be able to hear me anymore.
I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. All right, cool. Then we're good. So, yeah, no, that's Tung Po from Kickboxer. At the beginning of every round, he's like,
"Oh, right, yeah," and he
comes out and he beats the shit out of you with knees and
that's
elbows.
what he uses.
Like, yeah, that's terrifying.
Yeah. Dude, I don't know what it like. You know what GSP is going to do? Is going to take me down. But guess what? You can't fucking stop me. You're not stopping me. Yeah. I don't need to surprise you with 10 million fancy moves. I don't need to be like super creative like a John Jones or something like that. I don't need to do any of that shit. I can literally, hey pal, I'm going to take you down in the first 30 seconds of the round. Can you stop me? I bet you can't. And guess what? They don't. Like that's fucking terrifying, man. Like that's like, you know what you're preparing for, like something like say like a style like that. That's almost I'm only equating it in the sense of it seems simple on the surface, like that jab, keep it a range style. At face value, it seems simple, but like I said, can you stop it? Can you get in front of me? I'm going to press forward. I'm going to keep you at my range. I'm going to play this game. Sure, it seems simple. Britt style is easy enough on paper. Keep you at the range, keep you at the end of my jab. Can you stop it though? Well, guys, that pretty much does it for the show. Again, no dig on, a lot of people that we talked about. Just again, as we already stated, we're just trying to talk about the more eye-opening events. But congrats to everybody. Congrats to all the winners. Congrats to all the fighters.
And don't forget history that was made that night,
100%. And nobody can take that away, no matter what. No matter what crazy shit happened. 1000%, you cannot take that away. That history was made, the first this, the first that, and like I said, congrats to everybody. super fucking proud of everybody on that show. So I don't want to come off like that. Super fucking proud of everybody. But that's it for this show. And of course, we'll probably try to maybe even try to make up for a few shows. Maybe do a couple drops in a week or something like that. We'll figure it out. Try to make up for some lost time here, and we'll get some good stuff rolling to you. And we appreciate you so much for tuning in. Once again, that's Tom Shoaff. I'm Joshua Fers, Gentleman's Hour. Please, all the good stuff, like, follow, share, subscribe. You know what to do. And that's all we got. We're out.